The auction hall was hot and loud. Aliens from different planets filled the seats. Shouting and laughing, some clapped when a strong gladiator was sold. Others whistled when a tall dancer walked across the stage. Credits were thrown like candy. But near the back of the hall, 2 cages were still covered with dark cloth. No one looked at them. No one asked. Because everyone already knew those 2 were the leftovers. The auctioneer wiped sweat from his brow. He looked nervous as he walked toward the final cages. Now the last 2 girls. He shouted, forcing a smile. Don't be fooled. They're unique. He pulled off the cloth from the first cage. Inside sat a thin alien girl with silver skin, soft white hair, and big scared eyes. She hugged her knees and trembled like a leaf. The crowd stayed silent. Some frowned, some turned away. She's too soft, someone said. Won't survive a week, said another. Then the second cloth came off. This one was different. The girl inside looked wild, fierce, dangerous. Her hair was short and sharp like blades. Her nails were like claws. She hissed at the crowd and slammed her hand against the cage bars. Someone laughed nervously. Too wild, a voice said. She'll kill her master on the first night. Another whispered. The auctioneer cleared his throat. Starting bid 500 credits. No one raised a hand. Okay, 300 credits. Silence, 100 credits. Still no one. Even the gamblers in the back didn't bother. Just as the auctioneer sighed and turned away, a voice spoke from the shadows near the door. I'll take them both. Everyone turned. A human man stepped forward. He wore a dusty coat and an old soldier's belt. His face was calm, but his eyes were sharp. The crowd stared at him in confusion. Are you crazy, human? Someone shouted. They're worthless. The man didn't answer. He placed a small pouch of credits on the table. That's all I have, he said. But it's enough for both, isn't it? The auctioneer blinked, then nodded slowly. The crowd laughed again. Enjoy your new pets. Someone yelled, but the human ignored them. He walked over to the cages, opened the doors, and looked at the girls. The soft one crawled out, her eyes full of fear. The wild one walked out slowly, eyes locked on him. Watching every move, he didn't speak to them. He just turned and walked away. After a few seconds, the girls followed, one silent, the other still growling under her breath. Outside, the world was cold and dusty. The sky was orange, and the wind carried sand. They walked for a long time through empty roads and narrow paths. Finally, they reached a small cabin built into the rocks. Not big, not modern, but warm and safe. He opened the door, let them inside, and handed them food, real food. The soft girl cried when she touched the warm bread. The wild one sniffed it before eating like a beast. He didn't stop her. He just watched quietly after they ate. He pointed to 2 sleeping mats on the floor. You can rest here, he said. Then he walked to the corner and sat down on an old chair. The soft girl curled up on the mat like a kitten. The wild one stayed awake, her back against the wall, staring at the man all night. But she didn't attack, not yet. The next morning, the human made breakfast, eggs and hot drink. He placed the food near them and sat again without a word. This time, the wild girl ate first, faster. The soft one smiled just a little. He watched them again. They were broken, yes, but not worthless. Not to him. He didn't see soft and wild. He saw 2 souls who had survived something terrible, and he knew pain when he saw it. Outside, the wind howled, but inside, something quiet was beginning. Something strange, something that would change all of them. They didn't know it yet, but this was no rescue. This was the start of a new war. And these 2 girls might be the only reason he'd survive what was coming next. Asterisk, the wild girl opened her eyes to the sound of boiling water. The human stood by a metal pot, steam rising around him. He didn't look at her, didn't speak. Just poured the water into 2 cups and placed them on the table. The soft girl sat near the wall, rubbing her hands for warmth. She watched everything, like a small animal unsure if it was still in danger. The wild one didn't trust the silence. She had grown up in noise screams, electric fences, steel boots. Quiet meant traps. She stood up slowly and walked to the window, sniffing the air, listening for anything strange. Only wind and sand he noticed, but didn't say anything. He just moved one of the cups toward her. Her eyes narrowed. Was it poisoned? Was it a trick? But her stomach answered for her, loud and angry. She grabbed the cup and drank, not taking her eyes off the man for even a second. The soft one spoke for the first time, her voice tiny. "Thank you." The man turned slightly, his expression unreadable. "Eat," he said, sliding over a warm biscuit. "Then tell me your names." The soft girl hesitated, then whispered, "Leary." The wild girl didn't speak. She just stared at him like a wild dog watching a stranger near her den. The human sighed. "You don't have to tell me," he said. "But if I'm risking my life for you, I'd like to know what to call you." Still, no answer from the wild one. He nodded, as if accepting her silence. "Fine, then I'll call you Red." For now, she didn't argue. Leary smiled faintly, like she finally had something again, a name, a place, maybe even a future. That night, Leary sat by the fire, fingers moving slowly, drawing something in the dust. The human watched without a word. It looked like a symbol, old and alien. Red stayed near the door, sharpening a broken metal spoon into a blade. When the human tried to speak again, she interrupted him with a warning. "Don't come near me while I sleep." He didn't respond. He just nodded and returned to his chair. But he noticed something. Red wasn't just angry. She was protecting someone. Every time she glanced toward Leary, there was a flicker of something soft, something human. He realized then, they weren't strangers. They were connected somehow. He just didn't know how deep it went. Later that night, Red didn't sleep. She sat upright, knife in hand, eyes fixed on the shadows. Leary whispered in her sleep, flinching from invisible things. The man woke to the sound of Leary gasping. She was sweating, trembling. Red stood by her in an instant, calming her in a strange language the human couldn't understand. Then Red looked at him, her eyes cold. "If she dies, I kill you," she said calmly. He didn't argue. He just whispered, "I'm not your enemy." The next morning, something changed. Red didn't sit by the door. She sat at the table, facing the human. She still said nothing, but she didn't growl. Leary helped cook breakfast, even if she didn't know how. She dropped the spoon twice and burned her hand once. But she laughed, a small, broken laugh that sounded like a piece of hope. The man leaned back in his chair, looking at both girls. He had brought them here out of pity, maybe curiosity, but now he felt something more. He didn't see them as just survivors. He saw warriors in hiding, each scar, each silence, each glance between them. They were carrying a weight heavier than chains. Outside, the wind carried strange sounds that night, whispers and static, like radio signals bouncing through the sky. The man listened carefully, adjusting the old receiver near his bed. He picked up a single word in a cold alien voice. "Escapees, 2 female targets. Reward active." He turned to the girls. They were still in danger. Whoever owned them once wanted them back. But why? What were these girls really? The fire cracked softly. Leary clung to a pillow, dreaming of something painful. Red opened one eye, meeting the human stare. She knew what he had heard, and for the first time, she didn't look angry. She looked afraid. And the human? He finally understood something. He hadn't rescued them. He had stepped into something much bigger than himself. And there was no turning back. The first sign was the silence of the birds. No chirps, no flapping wings. Just wind sharp, strange, and cold, like it had been warned. Red stopped sharpening her spoon blade. Her head turned slowly, eyes narrowing. She sniffed the air once, twice, then stood without a word. The human noticed it too. Something was off. He stepped outside the door. Boots crunching on dry dirt. Nothing in sight. Just empty hills and a pale sun sinking into the dust. But his bones told him what his eyes could not. Danger was near inside. The cabin. Leary dropped a bowl, the sound too loud in the stillness. She gasped and covered her ears. as if expecting pain to follow. Red grabbed her arm gently but firmly. "Quiet," she whispered. "They're close." The human stepped back in and closed the door. He reached under his bed and pulled out an old rifle wrapped in cloth. It smelled like oil and memories. The girl stared at him. "You know how to use that?" Red asked. He didn't answer. He just checked the chamber and said, "Yes." They put out the lights. Red crouched by the window, eyes glowing faintly in the dark. Leary hid behind the crates, her hands shaking. The human stood still by the door, heartbeat steady but fast. Then movement. A soft crunch of gravel. Another. A red laser dot danced on the wooden wall before vanishing. The human whispered, "They're here." Red nodded. "2. No, 3, she said, her voice low and calm. Smell of metal and false skin trackers. Outside, a voice called in a language none of them spoke, but they understood the tone. It wasn't friendly. It was the voice of hunters. The human moved first, firing a single warning shot out the door. A scream followed, then silence again. Red didn't wait. She leapt through the window like a shadow, landing without a sound. The human moved to cover her, shooting twice into the darkness. A grunt, then another body hitting the ground. Leary peeked from behind the crate, eyes wide with fear. She had never seen anyone fight for her like this. Not ever. Her breathing became fast, shallow. But then she closed her eyes and forced herself to crawl forward. She reached the small cum box and turned it on. Her fingers shook, but she typed. In a code from memory, the screen lit up with green alien letters. A signal was sent, but to who? Outside, Red returned, one arm bleeding but her eyes burning with fire. "They're not soldiers," she said. "They're bounty rats." The human looked at her wound. "You need help." "No," she said. "You need answers." They went back inside, locking the door behind them. Red sat down and looked at Leary, who stared at the glowing screen. "It worked," Leary whispered. "Someone received it." The human looked between them, confused. "What signal?" Red finally spoke, her voice soft but cold. "The truth." They told him everything. They weren't just escaped girls. They were marked. Hunted not because they were weak, but because they were too rare, too dangerous. Leary was part of an ancient bloodline with the power to awaken lost technology. Red was her protector, trained from childhood to kill anyone who got close. They were not random prisoners. They were survivors of a lost royal house, and now someone knew where they were. The human sat down slowly. Everything made sense now. The soft one who trembled at shadows had ancient knowledge buried in her mind. The wild one who growled like a beast could kill without making a sound, and he had just fired on whoever wanted them dead or taken. Leary reached out and touched his hand. "I'm sorry," she said. "We didn't want to bring this to you." He didn't move his hand away. He squeezed hers gently. "I made a choice," he said. "And I'll make it again." Red looked out the window. The stars were brighter tonight, but the shadows below them had grown darker. More would come, and this time they wouldn't be rats. They'd be wolves, but something had changed. For the first time, Red didn't feel like she and Leary were running alone. For the first time, someone had stood beside them, fought beside them, and he didn't run. In the quiet that followed, 3 souls sat by the fire, a broken family, maybe, but a real one. And tomorrow they would fight again. She spoke when the wind screamed louder than usual, when the stars above blinked like dying eyes, when the fire was almost out and her knife was already clean. "I can talk," Red said, her voice low and sharp. Like glass, the human looked up from where he sat, not surprised but waiting. Leary gasped, sitting up from the blankets. "You never said anything," she whispered. "I was watching," Red answered, "and testing." The human raised an eyebrow. "Testing who?" Red stared at him, then at Leary. "Both of you," she said, "to see if you'd sell us too." Silence filled the cabin like smoke. Leary looked hurt, but not shocked. The human didn't defend himself. He just nodded slowly. "I would've done the same," he said, "if I'd been through what you have. Red leaned back, setting her blade on the floor. Back at the pits, words got girls killed, she said. The soft ones who begged were the first taken. The loud ones who shouted were broken later, her hands clenched into fists. But the quiet ones? The ones who bit and growled like animals? They were left alone longer. Leary looked down, tears forming. She did it for me, she whispered. Always. Red's voice grew quiet. I learned to be feared, she said. I acted wild, because no one protects a girl who cries. She looked straight at the human. But you gave us food, warmth, space. Without asking anything, he didn't speak. She tilted her head. You're either very kind or very stupid. He smiled slightly. Maybe both. Leary sat closer to Red, her small hands touching her protector's shoulder. You don't have to fight alone anymore, she said. Red didn't pull away this time, outside. The wind howled again, closer this time. The human stood, walking to the small console Leary had touched before. Its screen flickered, faint green letters dancing. Again, he pressed a few buttons, and a quiet tone echoed through the walls. What did you do? Red asked. I boosted the signal, he replied. If someone's coming to help or hurt, they'll get here faster now. Red didn't like that, but she said nothing. Leary looked nervous too, but hopeful. She whispered something in her own language, a word that meant home and danger at the same time. The human turned toward them again. I need to know something, he said. Are they coming to rescue you or erase you? Red's face went still. They're coming to erase what we are, she said, because we remember things others want forgotten. Leary touched the console again. The map from before lit up. It showed old star systems, broken routes, and hidden marks. I used to dream of this, she said, but I thought it was just a story. Red nodded. It was real, she said. Your mother told you the truth before she died. Leary's voice broke. She said one day I'd awaken. But I didn't know it would cost so much. Red looked at the human. And now you're part of it. He folded his arms and walked toward them slowly. I was a soldier once, he said. Lost friends. Lost cause. Lost purpose. He looked at the two girls, one soft and glowing, the other sharp and broken. Now I have a reason again. The cabin lights flickered, then turned red. A signal short range. Urgent. Red moved fast, climbing to the roof hatch. Peeking through night vision lenses, two crafts hovered above the ridge. Dark and quiet like vultures, she dropped back down. They're not waiting, she said. They're moving in fast. The human handed Red the rifle. She looked shocked. You trust me? He gave a small nod. Wouldn't have survived this long if I didn't know who to trust. Red held the rifle like an old friend, not like a wild girl, but like a trained fighter. She pulled back the bolt, eyes hard. Leary stood beside her, holding a small light module. If I get close enough to the main ship, she said, I can blind its sensors for 60 seconds. The human blinked. That's smart, she nodded. I was always soft, but never stupid. Red grinned, the first real smile she'd shown. Let's end this, she said. 3 broken souls, 3 reasons to fight. And this time, they would face the storm together, not as slaves, but as something the galaxy had forgotten. A family. The map didn't lie. It pulsed softly in green and gold on the old console, showing stars that no longer appeared on any galactic chart. One of them blinked, just once before the screen shut off on its own. Leary sat frozen, her finger still above the last button she pressed. I didn't tell it to do that, she whispered. Red stood beside her, tense, eyes shifting toward the door. That signal wasn't from us, she said. The human leaned in, staring at the dead screen. Then who woke it up? He asked. The answer came too quickly. A deep sound rumbled beneath the cabin, like metal scraping rock. Then the ground trembled, just for a second. Leary's eyes widened. I think something is buried under us, she said. Red stepped back, her rifle ready. This was never just a hideout, she muttered. This place was built on something. The human grabbed a crowbar and opened the hatch near the floor. Dust rushed out, followed by a stale breath of long dead air. A staircase spiraled down, made of smooth black stone, glowing faintly as if it remembered footsteps. None of them spoke. Red moved first. Leary followed close, the human behind them, holding a lantern. The deeper they went, the warmer it became, like the air was alive. At the bottom was a large round chamber, its walls filled with markings, some burned, some glowing, some moving. In the center was a small stone platform, and on it, a single metal sphere, floating silently. Leary walked forward like someone in a dream. The sphere rotated slowly as she neared it. Then it opened, petals unfolding like a flower. Inside was a tiny crystal with light trapped inside. Blinking like a heartbeat, Red raised her weapon. "Is it dangerous?" Leary shook her head. "No," she said softly. "It's mine." The moment she touched it, her body lit up with pale blue veins, glowing through her skin. She didn't scream. She smiled. Memories poured into her mind, not her own, but of others before her. Voices, songs, battles, stars being born and dying. She fell to her knees, laughing and crying at the same time. "I remember everything," she said. Red rushed to her side, holding her. "What are you?" she asked. Leary looked up, her glowing eyes wide. "I'm the key," she said. "They built this world, hid this place. For me." The human stepped forward, stunned. "Built it for you?" Leary nodded. "My blood isn't just old, it's chosen," she said. "I can wake up the machines, change the codes, control the guardians." Red looked at the walls. Symbols around them began to shift, spinning faster, responding to Leary's presence. "She just turned the whole place on," she whispered. Suddenly, the chamber shook, and a deep voice echoed, not from speakers, but from the stone itself. "Identity confirmed. Bloodline active. Unlocking archive." Leary blinked as holograms filled the room. Cities in the sky, ships larger than moons, creatures with eyes like suns. The human turned slowly, jaw tight. "This isn't just history," he said. "It's a weapon cache." Red's eyes narrowed. "No wonder they want her erased. They don't fear her because she's weak," the human said. "They fear her because she can change everything." Leary stood again, the crystal floating above her open palm. "But I don't want war," she said. "I just want to live free." Red placed a hand on her shoulder. "Then we fight so you can." The human checked his cum. 2 more enemy signals now on approach, one larger than before. "They know," he said. They felt the activation. Red looked at Leary. "You're the key," she said. "And we're your blade and shield." Leary smiled through her tears. "Then let's protect this place." They ran back up the stairs, the ground still trembling. Outside, lights lit the horizon, ships coming fast. But the cabin was no longer just a hiding place. It was a fortress, and the girl they once called Too Soft. She now stood as the center of a storm that could shake the stars. The first blast didn't hit the cabin, it landed far away. A warning. The second one came closer, shaking the floor and knocking dust from the ceiling. Red didn't flinch, Leary didn't cry, and the human? He loaded his rifle with a calm hand. "Time's up," he said, above the hills. 2 ships hovered like vultures made of steel and fire. They released spider-like drones that crawled fast toward the shelter. Glowing red with heat, Leary stood at the center of the room, arms out, crystal floating between her hands. Symbols on the walls began to pulse in rhythm with her heartbeat. "Keep them away from the doorway," she said, her voice stronger than before. "I need 1 minute." Red took position by the broken window. Rifle aimed, breath slow. The human crouched behind a crate near the entrance. Outside, the enemy came, drones first, buzzing and crawling like insects made of nightmares. Then shadow soldiers in black armor, no faces, no voices, only the mission to erase. Red shot first. 1 drone burst into sparks before it could reach the door. The human followed, hitting 2 more, but there were too many. Leary's fingers moved faster now. As if playing an invisible piano in the air, her eyes glowed a brilliant blue. The crystal spun faster. The floor began to shine beneath her feet. A sound like a bell echoed across the cabin. Not loud, but ancient. Suddenly, from the earth below. Black metal rose shields forming, walls growing from the ground. Leary had awakened something buried deep, not just memory, but defense. They built this to protect me, she said, breathing hard. In case this day came. The human looked around, stunned as walls moved and shaped themselves. You're changing the whole place, he said. Red didn't stop firing. They're adapting too fast, she growled. I need more firepower. Leary turned and raised her hand. A small weapon, sleek, glowing, rose from the floor beside her. She tossed it to Red. The rifle vanished from her hand the moment she caught it. Replaced by this new tool, Red looked at the weapon, grinned, and said, "Now this feels right." Outside, a larger enemy approached, twice the size of a normal soldier. Heavy armor, energy shield, burning red eyes. The human shot it in the chest. Nothing. Fired once with the new weapon. It pierced through the shield and dropped the beast like a sack of meat. Leary stumbled, almost falling. The crystal dimmed for a moment. The human caught her, steadying her body. "It's too much," she whispered. "Too fast." "It's pulling." "My blood, my mind, everything." Red ran to them, her eyes wide with worry. "Can we shut it down?" Leary shook her head. "No," she said. "We can't stop now." "I've opened the door." "The door to what?" The human asked. Leary looked at him, and her face changed for a second. She didn't look like a girl anymore. She looked like something more older, wiser, almost royal. "The door to who we really are," she said. Then she collapsed, the crystal floating just above her chest, still glowing softly. Red picked her up gently and placed her in the center of the glowing floor. "She's becoming what they feared," she whispered. The human looked at Red. "And you?" he asked. She smiled a strange, sharp smile. Then her skin shimmered, just for a moment. Scales appeared along her arms, her eyes turned gold, and her voice dropped lower. "I was never just a protector," she said. "I was born from a soldier. Cast bred to kill anything that tries to take her." He stepped back, amazed. "You've been hiding this?" "Wouldn't you?" she said, loading the weapon again. More enemies were coming now, landing outside the shield barrier, setting up cannons. But the human didn't run. He tightened his grip on his rifle and said, "Then let's make them wish they never came." And together, with the soft girl glowing like a star in the middle of ancient tech, the beast girl with golden eyes, and the soldier with nothing left to lose, they stood against what the galaxy had sent to erase them, not just alive, but awakened. Smoke rose from the battlefield like black ribbons dancing in the air. The shields around the cabin had fallen. The last of the defense tech now dead and cold. Ash covered the ground. Bodies of machines and soldiers scattered like broken puppets, but the three of them still stood. Burned, bruised, breathing. Red's armor was cracked, her golden eyes dim. The human's leg bled. Wrapped in cloth torn from his own coat, and in the center, Leary hovered inches above the floor. The crystal inside her chest now buried, absorbed. She was no longer the soft girl from the cage. She was something else now. Above them, the enemy ship circled, scanning, deciding. A voice came down from the sky, cold, robotic, full of warning. "Last chance. Surrender the key." Leary opened her glowing eyes. Her voice rang out clear and calm. "You've already lost." The ship didn't reply. It fired. A beam of white-hot energy roared toward them like the breath of a god. Red grabbed the human and threw them both to the ground, covering him with her body. But Leary didn't move. She lifted her hands and caught the beam, bare palms glowing, shaking. The earth split beneath her feet. But she did not fall. The light bent, twisted, and then shattered like glass in her hands. The ship above flickered, its engines coughing. Lights dying. It tried to escape, but it was too late. Leary raised her arm again. The old symbols from the hidden room spiraled into the sky like burning birds. One word echoed in the air, in a language long forgotten. Return. And the ship obeyed. It turned, crashed into the canyon wall, and exploded without a scream. The flames painted the sky orange and red, and then... silence. Red helped the human stand, her hands shaking. She did it, she whispered. The human stared at Leary, still hovering, still glowing. What is she now? He asked. Red smiled weakly. She's herself. Leary slowly lowered to the ground, her feet touching dirt for the first time in hours. The light faded from her veins, her hair falling back into soft waves. She looked tired, but her eyes were peaceful. I can't stay like that for long, she said. But now they'll leave us alone. The human limped toward her. You didn't just stop them, he said. You showed them something they feared. Hope. Leary nodded slowly. They thought beauty was something to control, she said. But true beauty is free. Red wrapped an arm around Leary, holding her close. The three of them looked around at the broken land, but it didn't feel like an ending. It felt like a beginning. They walked away from the battlefield together, not prisoners, not targets, not victims, but family. The human turned one last time to look at the place where it all began. That small, dusty cabin, once a hiding place. Now a memory. No one wanted them, he said softly. But I saw what no one else did. Leary looked up at him with a gentle smile. And because of that, we're still alive. Red punched his shoulder lightly. Next time, she said. Warn us before you bid on two dangerous girls. He laughed, despite the pain in his leg. Next time, he replied. You two can bid on me. They disappeared over the hill, just three shapes in the sunset. But behind them, legends had already begun, about the girl who tamed light, the warrior with golden eyes, and the quiet human who chose them when no one else would. Not because they were soft, not because they were wild, but because he saw their true beauty, and he never looked away.